For y'all don't know, Colorado is seeing a massive exodus coming out of the city, out of the campus, off of the team. And I wanted to point this out specifically because one thing that Coach Prime pointed out when he first got there was that the players we're going to have here at the spring game, majority of them will not be here on that fall roster. And it was a standard warning for people to understand that he's going to have to do a massive turnover to be successful long term. Let me preface this by why I'm talking about it this way. And Jason, I'm going to have you jump in here in just a moment. Look at it this way. The beauty of the transfer portal is that you have the capabilities of turning over your roster in one summer and having an opportunity to compete. And because the transfer portal is so new, this is our first time being able to see this truly in action. Now, granted, a lot of schools do this type of quote unquote turnover when new regimes come in. A lot of it's more so just scholarships are not renewed the next year and they go out and get different players and get different recruits. Not much transfers, more so just they start cutting players off the team, getting walk-ons and stuff like that. And so this is not a very uncommon practice. We just never seen it play out in the public like this. And so for Coach Prime's situation, the bigger thing with him is this is the first coach that we've seen come in that took over, and I'm sorry, Colorado fans, I've got to point this out, a 1-11 team, bringing in a high-profile coach, right? So, like, look at what Lincoln did over there at USC. Look at what Sonny Dykes did down there at TCU. They were bringing in, they brought in almost like 30 almost, I think like 30 to 40 transfers when they got there. They were bringing in a lot of transfers, and you saw that. You saw Mel Tucker do that at Michigan State. It wasn't something that was sustainable for him yet, but he brought in a bunch of transfers, and he had a really good season his first year there. So you're going to see this type of stuff happen way more often, especially when you get higher profile coaches going to new jobs. Now, one thing is that if Colorado had the talent day one, we wouldn't be talking about this, right? There's no conversation to have if Colorado had this talent day one. There's absolutely no reason to talk about it. But the problem you're running into is that they don't. They don't have the talent. They didn't have the talent up front. They didn't have the talent available. And so because of that, we're seeing them have to figure out how to be successful long term with a new coach and whole new regime and a new coaching staff. Now, there's one player that shocked the heck out of me that entered the portal for a second time that I kind of want Oklahoma to go after. And not only that offensive lineman, all y'all are excited about. Seydou Traore, the tight end / wide receiver that came from Arkansas State, that is a mismatch nightmare. You've seen people go look inside of my comments here. You will see in the live chat, if you're watching this on a separate video, go look at the live chat comments. People, a lot of Sooner players have said they would like to get a tight end, another one, because we've had some injuries. We don't know what the depth looks like. We got a lot of tight ends. I think we're good, but bringing in a talent like Seydou Traore will be huge for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I think that Traore left for a simple reason, and I mean it's simple. Listen, he didn't realize going over there, Sean Lewis's offense, they don't use tight ends for anything but blocking.
Thank you. Right, exactly, and that's kind of one of the things he learned going there. Also, with some of those players that did go in and end up leaving the portal, they got there, started working, and they got beat out by other players. Like, oh no, we got beat out by current players here, and so it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to start here. I came here to start. You're not going to guarantee it for me. I'm gonna leave. And so I don't see a problem with the mass exodus there. I don't see a problem with who they're bringing in and what they're doing, because in my personal opinion in all of this is you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Yep. And if this man wants to be successful, year one, I said year one they'd make a bowl game, and I still stand by that because I don't think the Pac-12 is that good. I think they are good enough to win 6 games. That don't mean they're going to have a winning record, but I think they're good enough to win 6 games. We're going to see a lot of players come in. They just picked up an Alabama corner. Didn't they just pick up 2 players from Alabama? They got a defensive lineman from Tennessee.
Yes, defensive lineman from Tennessee, defensive lineman from edge rusher from FSU, and Derek McClendon. And they've got right now, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 6'4" offensive linemen that are all coming through the transfer portal this week alone, plus Alton McCaskill, who was the freshman of the year in the AAC last year.
I say, and you got to remember they were losing. They still have to cut down their roster. If I'm correct, they still got kind of too many players under scholarship.
They had to look. They're off of that problem. I mean, they're at like 35 players total. So they're scholarship players now. So
yep,
they're there where they need to be. Listen,
they got the tackle from another tackle from Florida. You picked up David Connor. You pick up Amari McNeil. You they bring some of these Jackson State players like Willie
Cameron
Gaines.
Johnson is not guaranteed yet, but he was the first team All AAC offensive tackle from Houston. He went into the portal on Thursday. He was headed to Colorado Thursday night. So it hasn't happened yet, but it's pretty much going to happen.
Right.
As far as what I'm hearing. And as far Neil, I got to tell you, I don't think he's calling them losers. I think that what he said, I'm telling you, I watched that him on McAfee and what he was getting at. And this is the whole point. And that now what McAfee and those guys were saying is a little bit different, but I'm going to tell you, he kept saying, McAfee brought up the fact that when he was that first day and he's talking to those guys about who's going to step up in the running back room when it's 4th and 1. And not one of them said anything. They just stood there. And he said the same thing was going on whenever Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn Jr. were out there talking junk during, playing and against the DBs, and none of them are coming back at them. They just let these guys come in and take their lunch money. This is not the kind of player that can play for Coach Prime.
It's not the type of player that can play, honestly, here and survive at high level
none
football.
Of this stuff would be being said if it was anybody but Coach Prime. Do you think that Saban would not have done the exact same thing if he took over at Colorado? You think he would have wanted any of those guys? And if you remember, he dumped off a ton of them when he went to Alabama.
Yeah, that first year there when they was like 6 and 7 or something like that. They
all have to do it, man.
That's some cleanup.
The fact that he
did it
faster than anybody else is the only thing. And yes, he's louder about it.
He's Coach Prime. He's Deion Sanders, man. That's
just Coach Prime, bro. And if you expect him to not be who he is, then you're gonna be disappointed every time.
Yeah, you'll be very much disappointed in everything because I knew that Coach Prime was going to do this stuff. I knew that he was going to be who he is. And so, I mean, bringing in Brendan Gant from Florida State, 4-star, safety. They're bringing in some talented players. Now, they're not bringing in the top creme de la creme, the top tier players, but look at where these players transfer when they leave here. I think that if there's anything, if you want to have an indication of the talent they have and the talent that they were working with, go in there and see where these players end up. Because you don't have a lot of players leaving Colorado and ending up at some really big programs. You don't. Some are.
No, yeah.
But he's got a lot of work to do in cleaning it up there. And so I wanted to talk about that. I thought that was a very good topic. Hop in the comments, let your boy know what you think. Make sure you also like, subscribe, and all the beautiful stuff. If you're listening to the podcast version, rate, review, give us 5 stars. We would love to have you join the family.